Hello, students. Hopefully, you are all in a good condition. What you see now on the screen is about the discussions of the past and present narrative tenses. Our discussion today is about the story. The meaning is if you have a story, if you have experience in the past, and how you can express it. You can write down it is in the written form, or you just say it. Say the meaning it with the conversations, like the communication. You talk with your friend, and then you want to express what the story is. Normally, the combination of this is the tenses in the past or tenses in the present. But we need to understand the uses and the time signal, and that is the main point of our discussion for this unit. Um, we cannot discuss the narrative tenses without knowing the context. We have to see the examples and the sequence of one event and another one into one concept. That is the way in narrative tenses, the tenses that we use interconnected between one sentence and another sentence. Let's see the example here. How many tenses that we can see in the narrative tenses? Number one could be the tenses in the past, and that is what we call the past narrative tenses. Could be in the past simple, past continuous, past perfect simple, and past perfect continuous. The next one, it is in the present narrative tenses. That is the present simple, present continuous, present perfect, and present perfect continuous. And normally, because it is narrate, the meaning is to tell a story. It is used in the spoken expression, we can use the present narrative tenses. But if it is in the past, normally we make it that is in the past narrative tenses in the written form. What is the functions? We will understand the functions by reading and analyzing sentence one context of a sentence, another context, and after that we combine the three contexts of the sentence. This is context number one. What is that? Last week, I went to visit my best friend in Berlin and then traveled to Munich for a short weekend away on my own. While reading this, there's the context of the sentence to show that it happened last week. And what's the first one? I was in Berlin, and after that, the second action is in Munich, and all of them happened just last week. That is the case. But look at now. There's the questions related to this context one by one. Last week, I went to visit my best friend in Berlin and then traveled to Munich for a short weekend away on my own. There are two events here. The question is, are they still in progress or were they completed in the past? Absolutely, just by knowing the tenses, they are completed in the past. So completed in the past is the answer here. The next one, this is the second context. I had been working until very late every night the week before to finish a research project, so I felt I deserved a break. By looking at this, something about um, action, action that had happened before, because there's the use of I had been working until very late every night the week before. What is the questions? There are two different times in the past compared here. The first is last week before, when the speaker felt she deserved a break. And what is the second? Like what we discussed the week before. So last week, and after that is 1 week before last week. So how many weeks that our discussions here? There are 2 weeks as our discussion or the context or the background of this story. I had been working until very late every night the week before to finish a research project, so I felt that I deserve a break. The action I had been working until late started the week before. When did it end? When did it end? That's the questions. When? Last week, before the holiday. Because soon after I had completed, there was another activity and it was going for holiday. So two things or two events here for the narrative tenses. The next slide. So was this action in progress from the first time in the past until the second? Because our discussion in the previous one, there are two actions. The first one is completing the project, and number two is going on holiday. Now the question is, was this action? What is that? I had been working until very late every night the week before to finish a research project, so I felt that I deserve a break. So was this action in progress from the first time in the past until the second? The answer is yes. How do we know it? Because the use of the I had been working. The meaning is that the action had begun for a certain time in the past and ongoing until another event interrupted the past perfect continuous. The next one, this is the next sentence or the next context that we will combine the first one, the second one, and this one is the third one. While I was sightseeing around the city, I bumped into an old friend from high school. I hadn't seen him for over 10 years, but we enjoyed meeting up in the evening for dinner. This is another context or the last context of the narrative tenses as the discussion for this slide. Look at now this. Analyzing the sentence, and we understand while I was sightseeing around the city, that is the past continuous. I bumped into an old friend from high school. This action happened. I repeat, this action happened in the middle or during the action of sightseeing. That is in the past simple. I hadn't seen him for over 10 years. The meaning, it is something before this, 10 years ago. Before what? Before bumping into an old friend for 10 years. That was the time, the first time I saw him as my old friend here. Then after that, we enjoyed meeting up in the evening for dinner. That is the sequence. Okay, we will analyze one by one about the sentence of the third context here. Look at this section of the story. While I was sightseeing, I bumped into an old friend. There are two actions here. Which one was in progress when the other occurred? The meaning, which one interrupted the ongoing action? The progress while I was seeing. So interrupted or occurred during the progress, that one I bumped into an old friend in the past simple. The next questions. Look at this section of the story again. I bumped into an old friend and I hadn't seen him for over 10 years. The question is, there are two past actions here. Yeah. One is with I bumped into an old friend in the simple past and I hadn't seen him for over 10 years. That is in the past perfect. So which one happened first? Without thinking much, you will say past perfect happened. That's number one. And after past perfect, the following action is in the past simple. And that's the reason I hadn't seen him for 10 years. It happened first. The next slide. All right, this is what I mentioned previously. We have three contexts here. The first context is last week, I went to visit my best friend in Berlin and then traveled to Munich for a short weekend away on my own. That is the first. The second context now is I hadn't been working until very late every night the week before to finish a research project, so I felt that I deserve a break. The last context is, while I was sightseeing around the city, I bumped into an old friend from high school. I hadn't seen him for over 10 years, but we enjoyed meeting up in the evening for dinner. So look at now the three contexts here. Now we join the three contexts into a narrative tenses. Because normally this is the story that we want to tell and it is in the written form, grammatically correct. How to analyze this? We need to know the sequence. Because in the narrative tenses, there is a sequence 1, 2, 3 until the last one. How many sequences that we can see? The sequence are 3, but we can split the 3 sequence into 6 events. Number 1, I traveled to Munich. Number 2, I had been working until very late. Number 3, I was sightseeing. Number 4, I hadn't seen him for over 10 years. Number 5, I bumped into a friend. Number 6, I met my friend for dinner. If you look at the 6 sentences, the 6 events, do you think that number 1 until number 6 are written in the right order? They are all in the right order. The sequence, the first is first, second is second, third is third. No. So what was the first one? The first action, the first event to happen, and it is number 4. What is that? I hadn't seen him for over 10 years. That is. And after that, number 2 and number 1, this is overlap. What is overlap? The meaning is number 2 is ongoing. During that process, number 1 happened. What was that? I had been working until very late. During that one, soon after that, I traveled to Munich. And after that, what is that the next one? Number 3 and number 5. What is number 3? I was sightseeing. While I was sightseeing, I bumped into a friend. And the last one, after that, I met my friend for dinner. So it is clear now. By knowing the sequence, the timeline, we can organize from the past perfect, and after that past perfect continuous. The next one is the past continuous, and after that is the simple past. Okay, this is the expressions now in diagram as well as the explanation. You can screenshot, and after that you can stick in your note if you think it is necessary. Because number 1 is I had seen my friend. It is in the past perfect simple. The meaning is completed past actions that happened before a second past action. Past perfect simple, normally connected with simple past. The next one is I went to Berlin and Munich. It is the past simple. The meaning it is just complete action in the past. It was in the chronological order. The next one is I had been working late. That is the past perfect continuous to show the past actions in progress up to the time. Up to the specific time, another past action occurred. So during I had been working late, and what is that? Soon after that, I plan to have holiday. The next ones, I bump into a friend, and that is the sequence, simple past. And then I was sightseeing, that is the past continuous. And then the last one, we met for dinner, that was in the past simple to show the sequence. So I went to Berlin and Munich, that is simple past. The next one, I bumped into a friend, simple past. We met for dinner, simple past. All of them completed in the sequence of the narrative tenses. Okay. The next one is function, things to consider now. Look at this new section of the story, and after that you notice the tenses used. You cannot just knowing it only by knowing the structure, because you need to know the meaning of what the meaning of the context of the sentence. I had been working until very late every night the week before to finish a research project. The project was very important and I really needed to complete it before I went away. We'll analyze the sentence, but before that, we can identify I had been working until very late every night the week before to show the past perfect continuous. The meaning is it was begun, it it started in the specific time, just not last week, just 1 week before last week. Okay, and the project was very important. Extra informations about the thing I had been working. The next one, I really needed to complete it before I went away. So there is another thing that I plan to do after completing this project and it was going away. Okay, but by looking at this slide here, it is stated we do not continue talking in the past perfect simple. We do not continue talking in the past perfect continuous. So we don't continue. You don't need to repeat the past perfect twice or past perfect continuous twice here. Because what? After the first original, because the listener, like you want to tell the story, knows the time period of the speaker, knows the background, the time, the setting, the situations that you want to mention after that. Like I had been working until very late every night the week before to finish a research project. I don't need to continue that one to the project had been or I had really needed. You don't need to continue that one because we understand that the project was very important and I really needed to complete it before I went away. That is the period of time, the sequence after doing or working until very late every night. And after that, the conversation will continue in the past simple, right? Remember that we do not use state verbs. Speaking about the state verb, speaking about the mental verb. Mental verb, it is not action verb. Like I'm speaking right now, there is action of speaking. I'm writing, there is action of writing. So speak and write can be in continuous. But when you say I need it, I want it, and then I like it. So the word like want and after that need and like, they are not categorized into action verb, but state verbs, and it is not in continuous structures. Not like I had been working, that is in continuous structure. Okay, look at now the present narrative tenses. Because normally in the present narrative tenses, this is the version 2, it is mentioned or written here, and it is taught in the present tense instead of in the past tenses. So last week, though it is in the spoken English, normally we start the story, we start the experience, and we want to narrate about the event to someone else, and the spoken or the conversation, and we just say that, so last week, I go to visit my best friend in Berlin. If you are asking me by looking at this structure, how can it be last week did I go? Totally wrong, but because it is the function of the present narrative tenses, it is accepted in the spoken English. Look at it, just started with so. Last week I go to visit my best friend in Berlin, so the listener knows the context is last week, even though go is still used in the present instead of went. I have been working until very late every night the week before to finish a research project, so I feel I deserve a break. And while I'm sightseeing around the city, can't you believe it? See this one, the use of the expression, can't you believe it? When you say, can't you believe it, you want to stress something about the spoken or the conversations between you and the listener understand the context because you start the story by saying, so last week. So tense is here in the present tense, but it is still in the narrative tenses, and the context belongs to the past. Does this mean the story is in the present, or did it still happen in the past? Still happen in the past, not in the present. Completed in the past, nothing to do with the present. Okay. What about that? Which version do you think engage more the reader? So when you are reading, you will know the version 1, it's in the grammatical test, but when you speak and you talk to the native speaker, and most of the English speakers, or if they are native speaker, they will use this context via their speaking one to another because they know the context, and after that they just put the tenses into the second choices. So this is what version number 2 in the present. Again, so last week I go, it is not grammatical, it is wrong, it should be like the first, the version 1, but this is not formal. That is the question here. Do you think this sounds more or less formal? It is not formal. It is just in the spoken English. I say again, I want to mention you again that this is the spoken English, but it is included in the narrative tenses, and it is not the formal way. If you're doing the grammatical structure, this is not right because last week is not the time signal of I go in the present. But when you tell the story, it is accepted. Okay, look at now this. We can use the present tenses to talk about the story in the past. Why? Because we want to make it more immediate, engage for the reader, to make the reader feel comfort and they are in the story, to make the conversations live. So that is not about the grammatical structures they concern, but the message is delivered nicely and closely to the listener. So the past narrative tense is normally changed from the past simple into present, from the past continuous to the present continuous, from the past perfect simple to the present perfect simple, past perfect continuous to the present perfect continuous. So you can see it is not about the direct speech or indirect speech, but normally it is just the use of the present narrative tenses. Check the uses of the past narrative tenses previously. You can stop it and then rewind and look at again the past one. And they are all the same in the context. But one, it is common in the written form, and this one, the form in the what is that in the present, it is in the spoken expression. It is common to use the present narrative tense more in the spoken informal context, or it is in a very informal written gender. But if it is in the written, in the text, it is the grammatical structure, you have to use the version 1. How to make sentences? Okay, this is the grammar. If you like it, if you're happy with the patterns, you're happy with the structure here, you can screenshot and then you know it. With the past perfect simple, with the subject verb, okay, with the past perfect continuous, with the past perfect simple, past continuous, present continuous, with the past simple, present simple, past perfect continuous, present perfect continuous, or past perfect simple or present perfect simple. So you know the structure, like I went to visit my best friend in the past simple, and then while I was sightseeing, that is in the past continuous, and then past perfect simple I hadn't seen, and then past perfect continuous I had been working until late, and the structure you can see. Okay, you can pause it, and then after that you do the exercises. You write down the exercises. This you can write the answers in the comment. What do you think the right one? But soon after that, about 1 week after I publish this, I will give you the correct answers in the comment. And for the students, you can do these exercises, and your teachers will give you the answers, or I will give you the answers in the following meeting. This is practice activities number 1. And after that, this one, practice activity number 2, you can pause it and try to analyze which one is the first, which one is the second. Look at now number 2. This is about the present. Okay, this is about the things in the past, but you try to say it in the informal one, but this is the formal way or in the written form. Look at now this all. Okay, you can pause it and do it. All right, thank you, students. I think that's all about the narrative tenses. You need more practice and read more, and see you. Bye bye.